Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to our Masterclass training for August. Today we have a very interesting content, which I believe we didn't have a session about that for a long time. It's Schuessler Salts. And right after that, we will have a questions and answers session for Healy High Wave. I assume that some of you already started to use your high wave product, and maybe some questions already arise. So this is a good chance for all of you to ask your questions. And yeah, in order to make the most of our time, I would like to hand over now to our Chief Product Officer and our Master, Martin Wittmann. Martin?
Hello, thank
Yours.
you. It's always a pleasure to have meetings with Aleph. Um, yeah, as Aleph said, let's deep dive into the topic of Schuessler salts because I think this also took a long time until I finally managed to get the team to have time to produce the video for the academy, and now of course I can also show you firsthand what is the magic behind Schuessler salts. Let's go into the details. Okay, so of course our topic Schuessler salts is something that most of the people that have some alternative background already know, because like homeopathic remedies and bug flowers, Schuessler salts are very famous, at least in Germany. And so they are formally and technically quite similar to homeopathy, but it's a completely different mode and approach that they actually have. So back then, Dr. Wilhelm Reich Schuessler in 1873, he was a homeopath, and he was also a physician, and he developed basically everything around the Schuessler salts. So the Schuessler salts do not function according to homeopathic like cures like principle. So it's not like, yeah, you have something that's similar and you stimulate basically your system with this similar thing, and then you basically get a reaction. So what he proposed is that all imbalances and metabolic issues can result from mineral deficiencies. So we all know we have lots of different kind of food that we eat, and every food has different ingredients, and we have also those superfoods that have a special amount of a special ingredient and so on. I mean, I always say the thing that are growing naturally in your garden are the best superfoods you can get. But of course, some things are more healthy than other things. And when you go to a mineral, let's say, realm, then you of course have also some things that are really important because the body is built up out of those minerals. So what he did, he basically homeopathically diluted minerals to stimulate the regulatory forces of the body. So as we all know, the best healer is our body itself. It's not that someone can give you something and then you're healed, as all therapists might make the impression to, because it's their job to basically tell you how to get better. But at the end of the day, you need to get better. So it's your body, it's your mind, it's your emotions, it's your mindset that brings you back to health, to a healthy state. So what are actually the 12 functional remedies? So those 12 functional Schuessler salts, they are usually identified by Roman numbers and their Latin names. And those 12 minerals also remain if you are basically dead and completely burned. So, you know, the people get crematized, so there's not much left, just a urn with some basically ashes. But those 12 minerals that he chose are contained in this ash that you have when you actually have nothing else left. And they are considered, to his understanding, as essential for the organism. So essential minerals for the whole organism. So now we have a small overview of those 12 original remedies. So as you see, they have those numbers. They also have potencies, so D12, D6. So usually nothing else. And of course, they also have those Roman original names. And now his predecessors, basically, so his students and followers, they added later 15 additional minerals. And they are basically numbered in the same way. And they are considered as enhanced remedies. So they just complete the picture, let's put it like that. So that is what they are. So the structure is basically the same. And they are also D12 and D6 dilutions. And now, very important for the whole system that he created is the 12 constitutional types. So the selection which Schuessler salt to take, basically, or to administer, is similar to homeopathy. So not according to the specific imbalances, but also according to the so-called constitutional types, which means you determine, for example, by facial analysis, and I hope that all of you know facial analysis, because usually in the face of a person, it's like a fingerprint. It's unique, but in the face you also see certain modalities. So if you basically have below your eyes, this is always swollen, you always can conclude certain, let's say, body functions that do not work optimally. And as you can read here, so the structure, the color of your skin, wrinkles on certain parts of the face, they indicate tendencies to certain imbalances. And the constitutional types are analogous to the 12 functional remedies. So they are basically matched one-to-one onto each other. And now let's have a short look onto those constitutional types. So for example, let's take number 1. So it's calcium fluoratium. And there you have skin wrinkles, curls, and calloused skin. And that's very unique. And when you compare to the second one, there you have pale skin and states of weakness. So those are very, very specific, and those, according to his system, basically always point to a deficiency, a certain deficiency that needs regulation. Now, the mode of administration. So the Schuessler salts are usually given as tablets. They are then dissolved in the mouth, and the active ingredients are then, of course, absorbed as they dissolve in the mouth or then in the intestine or the inner systems. And what we have, of course, is the HealAdvisor Analyse resonance database for the Schuessler salts. And here you do analysis and, of course, always subsequent harmonization in the information field. So, and what the analysis reveals usually is the actual state and a positive affirmation. So what is basically the imbalance, and also what is the way you need to go to balance your system again, to give the right, let's say, push in the direction of holistic health. So, and what we also have in the Schuessler salts, and that's quite unique for this database, it's where you basically want the information to go, or in which body part you want to administer the information, or which body part you want to strengthen with the positive information. But that we will see later in detail. So what we have in the database, and that's quite important, is of course the information patterns. So we don't have any physical things, as you know, in this database, but the information pattern of those Schuessler salts. And of course, the harmonization of obstructive states and mind and feelings such as uncertainty, lack of self-confidence, and stress. So that's a few of the things that we actually address. And of course, with information field analysis, we have a very, very simple and quick way to perform an in-depth analysis on various topics. So to get the right Schuessler Salts or to basically get the right information, there's no faster way that I'm aware of. And of course, if you have this information, this positive information particularly, then of course you can better understand your own situation. So you can see, okay, what might be the key out of the situation that I am in now to a positive future. And of course, this way you identify a way to regain full balance and of course also face life challenges, because that's I think what I at least learned, that it's not that you have one challenge in life, that you have one thing to solve. It's always you as a person develop in a new state. You have a broader vision. As we all know, when we start out as children, we just know our home, and then we know maybe the kindergarten, then the school, and then we basically at some point go out and maybe we visit another country, and we basically broaden and broaden our view of the world. In the same way, the development of our own traits, of our own character, also develops accordingly. And every development step brings a new challenge that we need to overcome to develop further. So there's no end in those challenges. So it's always good to have something that helps you to get to the next checkpoint, to the next personal development checkpoint. So what we have in the analysis, of course, is our standard focus sentence, and with what do I have the greatest resonance? And what you can do, of course, is focus yourself on whatever you want. So this is just a general, basically, focus that everyone knows how the analysis is built. But if you know a certain theme, you can, of course, enhance this focus by your personal intuition, by your personal intention. So what you intend to find through the analysis. But I will explain this later a little more in detail. So there are mainly two ways to analyze or to use the analysis with the Schuessler Salts. So the exploratory analysis, and that's basically if there's nothing concrete. So you think, okay, I don't feel very, very good. I don't feel very bad. I just feel, yeah, that I need some help, maybe that I need a little push in the right direction. And maybe you need some support, or you're looking to develop personally, or you have something, emotionally that is just, coming up. And this you take, and there are two ways now to go on with the analysis. So before you actually press the analysis button, you simply can go in a state of gratitude and see what comes back. You can also focus on something when something spontaneously comes up. Yeah, maybe that's something I want to look deeper. Or the least that you should always be aware of, or should make someone aware of if you teach someone, is to be open, to be completely open for whatever the universe wants to tell you. And then you start the analysis. So the next or the second way of doing that is a topic analysis. So if you really have an acute or also a chronic topic that has absolute priority, so it's not saying So yeah, my foot hurts and I have a back pain and I feel a little sad. No, it's the one thing that comes to your mind when you think, okay, what's bothering you? And then usually your intuition will tell you, okay, that's bothering me. And that's then your topic for analysis. So the first step is to basically precisely describe this topic in a simple sentence. So what is actually wrong or what needs to be improved? And then the second step is always, and that's the most important step and also the most challenging step for people that do that for the first time at least, it's focus on a time in the near future when the topic is already resolved. So how would you feel? How would you think? How are you in this future, in this positive future? And then you also feel how you would feel in this positive future. How would it feel if this issue that is bothering you, is not there anymore? And then you really feel it in the whole body. In every cell, you feel, okay, this positive energy. And then you enter in a positive attitude and a feeling of deep gratitude. So you're now inviting basically through your gratitude, through your positivity, uh, the positive information to solve basically or to give you a hint how to get to this future state. And then you start the information field analysis. And you should not overdo it, as I always said. So it's not about, yeah, now I need to exactly focus on the right thing and I need to force the analysis to get me the answer to this thing. The last thing, if you recognize that you basically trying to force the analysis, then you just go back a step and say, okay, I just want the optimal result. So you basically neutralize this negative energy, which is like, I want to force something, is always a negative energy. You neutralize this by just telling yourself, I want the optimal result for the theme, the thing, the focus that I have in my mind. So I just want the optimal result because this brings it down to a neutral state again. And after the analysis, of course, you get the 5 entries with the highest resonance. And I prepared a practical example for you. So here on the left side, we have suppression of one's emotion and the urge to fulfill the expectations of others. And I think that's something culturally almost everywhere in the world is the case. So you have emotions, but the world tells you that they are wrong. So why? Because they are, of course, in the way of functioning perfectly. And that's what our, let's say, logic-driven and performance-driven cultures or work environments tell us. They tell us you need to function, you need to be top performance to earn money, you need to be the best. Don't cry, don't tell me about your problems, just work perfectly. And so we learn to suppress our emotions, which are actually one of the most important parts of our soul, of our whole being, that we can express, that we can be happy. And of course, then you have the desired state, which is the Schuessler Salts itself. And then you have the desired state description. And that is quite important because there you have a way of positively addressing the imbalance. So in this case, supporting the ability to recognize one's own feelings and needs and to live one's emotions freely. And wouldn't be that beautiful if everyone could do that? So let's dive a little deeper. So the result that we just saw, I already read it. So this is basically reflecting a theme that we are taught from an early age. So usually we are not supposed to express our natural needs. And a good example is if you are hungry as a child or as an infant, and your mother doesn't have time to feed you. So there, as all mothers know, there are 100 things to do in a day. You need to take care of cleaning, you need to take care of your husband, you need to take care of, I don't know, a dozen things. And then you also need to feed the child, which is essential, but sometimes you are, I don't know, you're on the phone, you are opening the door, and it's just not possible. And in this moment, it already starts to grow, the feeling starts to grow. Yeah, I'm wrong. I cry, no one answers, so I must be wrong. And that is a very, very, very dangerous thing. So we start to suppress our emotions to meet the expectations of others. So that's of course not for an infant, that's not the case, but later that's what we basically do. So we see, okay, our mother punishes us for crying for whatever reason, or for acting out in whatever way, and then we start to suppress our emotions. We start to function properly in our environment. Let's put it like that. And the first, most important step is to become aware where we are suppressing our emotions in order to be loved. Because that usually comes up in a partnership. So if you're married or if you're living with a partner in whatever situation, there you're facing those things, usually almost on a daily basis. So you are doing things that your partner doesn't understand, and the other way around, because you are trying to function. You're not trying to live, you're trying to function. And this usually clashes at one point or the other. Either you don't understand your partner, you are sad for whatever reason, you are angry, everything usually leads back to such a thing. And now, the most important thing to get actually a hold of those things is to be introspective and reflect when all this actually began. So when did I start to suppress emotions? When did I start to do whatever issues coming now up? And this way you're getting to the root cause, basically. And now you have the opportunity to consciously rewrite this pattern. So in the desired state entry, you find this corresponding Schuessler salt that we already had. If it affects you particularly deeply, you can of course also take this Schuessler salt physically. So in the first part of the desired state description, the positive resolution of the present state is formulated as we already had, and what you can do or should change in order to come back to your center in harmony, and to become aware of when you suppress your feelings and needs. So that's one of the cornerstones. You need to become aware of those things. So you really need to see in your daily business, your daily doing, when do I do things as I always have done it, or as you always do, but your partner or whatever person you're interacting with has a negative reaction to what you do. And then you need to become aware. Maybe it's not the other person, maybe it's something I do unconsciously that triggers a negative response. And that actually is one first step into the direction of healing. And now you, of course, can ask yourself honestly, what would have happened if you hadn't done that? So what does that mean? So you actually go back where you started to suppress your emotions. You close your eyes, you go back to, I don't know, when you were 4 years old, 2 years old, whatever time it is for you, and see, okay, what would have happened if I simply communicated my emotions, and what would have happened if the other person actually would have responded in a positive way. And how would it feel like if you would not deny yourself? And now you basically don't think, yeah, that's a theoretical construct. No, you actually feel how it would have felt like if this would be the case. So you basically administering your emotional body with this positive feeling. You actually telling all your cells that's positive, or that would have happened in a positive way. That's how it should have felt like. And that's how your emotional body actually relearns what is important to be holistically healthy. So you inform yourself what is the new state that you want to be in, the new standard for your emotional feeling, for your emotional body. It's not feeling neglected, it's not feeling sad, it's not feeling down, it's not feeling depressed. No, it's feeling really, really good. That's what your body needs to learn, what your emotional body needs to learn, again, if you have such a topic. Yeah. So practical hints. You, of course, can also create a positive affirmation from the first part of the desired state. So a positive affirmation that you use to inform yourself constantly, because you dragged usually such things with you since decades, these negative feelings, this negative information. So it needs a little effort to positively inform yourself to get basically rid of this negativity. And when you drink, every time you drink, you remember this positive affirmation. And of course, if it's possible, say it out loud, because a spoken word is really powerful. And there's an example of an affirmation. So I listen to my feelings. I'm happy with myself, and I'm worth of being loved just as I am. And if you are a parent, maybe one small hint from my side. The most important thing that you can give to your children is unconditional love. So that they feel that they don't need to do something to be loved. Because then you basically raise your children as slaves. If you give them unconditional love, you raise them as masters of their own universe. And I think that's one thing that you should always remember, even if it's challenging sometimes with children, but it's worth it. And of course, what also helps, since water is a strong information carrier and can be informed, you write this positive information onto your bottle. So you write this, what actually is helping you to regain your full strength as a human being. You write it on the bottle and inform the water with this positive information, and then you drink it. So that are several ways to actually increase the potency. So you should of course always use the information field harmonization. Always also read what is sent there if you're still very much bothered of this topic, and then you can enhance this by informing water, reading out loud the affirmation, doing all those things. This basically is addressing the same thing on different levels, and then it of course adds up. yeah, as I just said, the last step is, of course, always vibrate it into the information field for at least 1 minute. I mean, we all have not so much time, or at least we tell ourselves that we don't have much time. Use this time wisely and really vibrate it in the information field. Really send this positive information like a prayer into your own field, or the field of the client, of course. So this is basically supporting what you have hopefully reflected and what you felt, basically. And then you enhance it with an information field harmonization. Yeah, of course, always important for newcomers. Only the positive information, of course, is sent to the information field. So the actual state is not sent, because we always, and that's, I think, also a key mantra for everyone that uses information field analysis and harmonization. You always use the positive information to inform yourself, to inform your information field. Of course, always would be nice to, in all communication that you do, to have a positive notion in it. But that's what because what we focus on, we draw into our world, and we want to focus on positive things and draw positive things into our world. Then one quite important thing is, of course, further entries. So the same procedure, of course, you can do for every single entry, but you should always consider what is really important. So what your intuition tells you. So if you do it like a mechanical thing, so I do the first one, I do the second one, that's not about it. It's about really the qualitative feeling that you basically experience why you go through those entries, why you actually working on your emotional body. It's not about the number of entries. So it's not about quantity, it's always about quality. So really trust your intuition, which you should always do, of course, but especially if you work in this realm, trust your intuition. What is the right thing now? What should you do? Where should you focus on? And then really focus on those things. Because the best healer is the healer from within, because this one actually knows the truth. So it only leaves me to wish you good luck on your way to inner self-knowledge. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, thank you, Martin. There were really, really useful learnings about Schuessler Salts. It was also kind of a personal growth activity to me. I always, feel like that in your, most of your trainings, let's say, and it's really good. And you touched really beautiful points also regarding life. But we had a question in between about Schuessler Salts, because one of our participants asked, why don't we use Schuessler Salts directly into the cell via Ping app, not like, vibrating? Is there any development planned for the future? I mean, I believe I have the answer, but of course it would be better for you to answer this.
I mean, the thing is, if you administer it as a frequency, it's one way of doing it. But since we have, let's say, IMF programs, so individualized microcurrent frequencies, we anyway analyze the right frequency. So you can see it as a small spectrum and a broad spectrum. So Schuessler Salts is a very, very narrow spectrum. It's a very narrow thing. It basically points to a very narrow, let's say, frequency bandwidth. And usually our, let's say, whole organism is much more complex. So with this analyzed frequencies, you get much more from different things that is basically administered in the whole thing. I think if you, work on the emotional part and use the information field harmonization, that's exactly specific addressing this issue. If you just administer a few frequencies to basically give your body, let's say, a push, I don't know if this really makes the big of a difference. You know what I mean? To combine it with frequency programs, always very good. But I think the understanding of how IMF programs work, so your intuition and your intention of using this program for a certain thing is much more important, because what I would do is I would do an information feed analysis with Schuessler
Mhm.
Salts or whatever you have,
Uh-huh.
and see what are the results, see what you resonate with. You really like, okay, that's a topic. I mean, for me, it's usually like I do an analysis and I think I read through the analysis list and say, okay, yeah, I finally need to work on this. And that if you find something like that, then you deep dive into this topic. And then you also can search for the according IMF program. So you can combine it, but I think to only have Schuessler Salts programs is a little narrow. We could do that, but yeah, there are so many programs already.
Okay. Okay, that's a good answer. And I personally have a question, just to be sure, not like a question, but Schuessler Salts database is included in our HealAdvisor Analyze application resonance module, right? So
Yes, yes,
means starting from our Healy Evolve edition, Schuessler Salts are already included in the edition, right? So people,
yes.
this is a good point for, from a sales point of view. That's why I just wanted to emphasize one more time so that the participants can know from which edition that they will be able to use it. Okay, I think we can move on with the questions about Healy High Wave. If there is any
Yes.
question from the participants, if you have questions, please write in the chat box. But please in English language, because due to the Zoom account functions, we are not able to copy and paste to a translation tool. So it would be really good and useful for us that you write your questions in English language in the chat box. Maybe we can wait for a minute or two to get the questions, if any. Okay, I think they're coming. Oh no, these are just okay. Okay, there's a question now. When using high wave, the white light must light before it's able to send the frequency. What it blinks along the way? I try to.
So maybe I mean that maybe I explain shortly how this actually the LED works. So one thing is only if you have like 40-45% depending on the skin resistance, uh, actually the LED basically lights up. And then you can also see if you basically have the metal pads on your skin and you lift it up, then you see the intensity increases. Why does the intensity increase if you lift it? Because then there's no field that's incorporated in the body. So if you basically put it back on your wrist, then the field is basically generated in your whole body. And that's why the LED has not enough power anymore to light up bright, because the Healy itself powers the high wave, because the high wave itself has a high frequency generator that's basically creating the carrier wave. And this needs at least about 3 volt or 4 volt to actually create the carrier frequency. And the more intensity you have, of course, the more, yeah, let's say, energy is there to create the carrier frequency in the whole body. So that's why the LED has a different intensity, the higher the basically intensity of the program is. Then what you do is basically you modulate the high frequency carrier wave with the frequency of the Healy. So if you have 1 hertz, you have basically every second you basically have an impulse. which means every second you also have incorporated in the high frequency carrier wave the frequency of the Healy, which means it turns off, on, turns off, on. So that's how you basically modulate it. So you basically turn off and on the carrier wave.
Yeah.
So of course, if you have a higher frequency, it turns off on very fast or faster. So the blinking gets faster, faster, faster until our human eye cannot perceive it as blinking anymore. It just looks like a steady LED. So that's if you have higher frequencies, it just looks like the LED is on. With lower frequencies, you see how the modulation actually is happening. So those are quite important effects to know. And of course, if you have a switch of a frequency, so in the beginning, usually every 10 seconds you have a new frequency, then of course one frequency ends, there's no energy, and the other frequency starts, there's energy again, which is basically coming. So that's why it's also blinking, which is like off and on between those frequencies. And I think those are the most important facts you need to know about the LED.
Yeah, okay, then it was a good question, right? So maybe most of the people were were curious about this blinking stuff. Okay. So another question, it's not about the highway, but it's about Schuessler salts. Anyway, we can ask what kind of health problems it is useful to use Schuessler salts. I don't know if we have a reply for that.
I mean, that is basically, as you saw in the Schuessler Salts, when you have the facial diagnosis, basically, you have those, let's say, imbalances in one sheet that I showed. You can also watch the video in the academy, and you simply see if you have one of those conditions or those imbalances or those things, then it's good to use Schuessler Salts. But usually, those things are globally, which mean or are closed systems. So usually the Schuessler salts should address every issue that is out there
Mhm.
in a way. Of course, it's not a one pill cure, and as we all know, the one pill cures are usually not working. So, but it's always, and that's what you need to remember, it's a push in the right direction. You cannot miraculously get rid of something. You always need to enable yourself to get rid of it.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and we need to also remind all the time, as we always do, that, none of our programs or our products, cannot treat you from a health condition. So this is a good point to remind that. Okay, there is another question. What time Viber to program cell and mind wave with the high wave recommend to start it? I believe he's trying to ask how many times to vibrate the programs of cell wave and mind wave with the high wave in a day, maybe.
So usually in a day, I would always recommend once daily, but it of course depends on your condition. So
Mhm,
once daily, or I mean, if I would have someone that is anyway old and overwhelmed with everything, I would recommend to start with once a week. And the more fit you are, then in once daily is perfectly fine. And if you have a certain topic, let's say, I don't know, focus or something, and you really need to concentrate very heavily on something, which I do usually, then you can also administer it up to 3 times a day. But I would be really careful to do more because
mhm,
too much of something good is also not good. So really be yeah, very aware of your own intuition, how often you should do it. So really double check yourself. See,
mhm.
okay, I used it now 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. Did it really bring the extra benefit, or is there no extra benefit? Does it overwhelm your system, or is it still in the positive realm? So really listen to yourself is, I think, the best
It's a
way to find
personal
it out.
thing, right? It's
Exactly.
just a personal thing. Yeah, yeah, I can understand. Okay, another question. If the LED doesn't light up after a while, does it mean that it's not working?
So it means usually that you have, instead of low current or high current in the Healy app, you have low current. So that's why the energy is not enough to actually switch on the high carrier wave or to power the high carrier wave and the high wave, or you didn't plug it in properly, which is also possible. And if all of those things do not work and it doesn't light up, then it's a hardware error somewhere.
Okay, then it's good to know. Another question, what percentage do we set to vibrate the programs with high vibe, like 100% or less? I believe this is a general question about healing, or I think so.
Can you repeat it? I didn't get the beginning.
Yeah, what percentage do we set to vibrate the programs with high vibe, 100% or less? You know,
You mean,
we
okay.
use the coil, for example, you know, 100%. Yeah.
So this is also very individual. I know persons that actually feel the electrical field that is created by the high wave. So they actually say, okay, more than 40% is too much for me. Others feel nothing. They can use 100%. I mean, at the end of the day, it's always, let's say a combination of battery life. So the higher the percentage, the lower the battery life. You can only have so and so much energy, of course. The other thing is, of course, if you generate an electrical field and the LED actually lights up, then it usually is anyway in the whole body. So more than, I don't know, 50% might not really give the extra benefit. But now the big but, you always need to experience for yourself, because there's no let's say formula for every person. It's a very individual thing how much your body actually needs, how much actually is let's say doing the trick for you.
Okay, that's interesting and very useful answer, I believe. Okay, I believe there is no other question. Oh, there's another question. Okay, what percentage do we set to vibrate the programs with the high vibe and with the bracelet? Sorry, my English is not so good. Okay, so the previous question with the bracelets. So the question was about high wave, I believe. So is there any other explanation that we need to do right now about the percentage? So it's the same.
I think if it's the bracelet, I mean, maybe it's the question, the high wave programs with the bracelet, but it's basically the same with the bracelet. I
Yeah.
mean, you usually should see that actually there's a connection so that current is flowing. If this is the case, then it's a very individual thing again. So some people really need 10%, some need more. But if you have high current, maybe that's something important. If you have high current, and then you usually feel the frequencies with the bracelets. But you should almost not feel them. You know what I mean? So if you feel them, always take the intensity to a level that you almost don't feel them anymore, because there too much is really too much. So if you really like, it's lots of stinging, lots of pain or whatever, that's not helping the process, because we are talking about microcurrent, and microcurrent that is basically in the realm of the body current. And you don't feel the body current, so you don't feel, my muscle is twitching, there's a current going through. No, you don't feel it. And that's the level that we want to achieve. You usually don't feel it, and that's also the level that your body understands. Everything else is intrusive.
Yeah, this is also a very good point, because these kind of questions are always coming, I cannot feel anything, so that means that doesn't work. Yeah, but it's not like that, this is the normal thing actually. So it's really good to repeat one more time via this question. So thank you for the question. And I believe we don't have any other questions in the chat box and also the questions and answers box. Yeah, I think we need to wrap up the meeting. And yeah, thank you, Martin, for today's session. And thanks also to our participants for making the time today, for being here. I wish everyone a great weekend and hope to see you in the next masterclass training session. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.